Welcome to another edition of TokStocks. I'm your host, Keir Reynolds, and today I'm lucky enough to have Kyler Hardy, Executive Chairman of Temas Resources. Trades on the CSE with the ticker TMAS. Hey, Kyler, how you doing today?
Really good, and thanks for having me on the show. I'm really appreciative.
Yeah, great. I know I saw you very briefly, sort of bumped into you when you were doing a meeting in January, and we sort of chatted about it. But you've been pretty busy with everything going on, so I'm glad you could carve a bit of time out. It looks like a very good timing as well for what you have going on. So before we sort of dive into your company, maybe we can kind of get our 60-second pitch out of the way. First question. What is the name and stock ticker of your company?
Name of our company is Temas Resources, and the ticker is TMAS on the CSE.
What is your market cap?
We're about 8 million market cap today.
What is the vision for the company?
To develop the Blache asset through pre-feasibility study and bring a significant partner into put it into production.
Why are you best to lead this?
A long history in the natural resource sector all across Canada and globally has given me a great skill set both on the operational side and on the company financial side to lead this forward.
How many shares are outstanding?
About 22.7 million as of today.
What is the insider ownership percentage and how much capital have you invested?
Both great questions. Insider ownership percentage is about 25%. If we bring in friends and family, close associates, another 20% for a total of 45%. And into this company, I've got about 500,000 into the company so far.
Are you fully funded for 2024?
We're funded for our current activities, which include additional scoping studies and some First Nations engagement, but we will have to do another raise at some point to get into feasibility study.
What are your short-term catalysts?
Right now will be additional drilling and moving our resource from inferred into measured and indicated, as well as some additional met work on the low-grade semi-massive oxide.
Thank you for that. Now we can get in. Now we'll stick you on the hot seat. We'll do what everybody loves to do, talk about themselves. So for some of my viewers who don't know you, would you mind sharing a bit about your background?
Absolutely. I've been in the resource sectors my entire life, from forestry to mining to oil and gas and kind of all the little pieces in between. Started in the mining sector specifically as a diamond driller right out of high school and built that up into a career, as well as that led into running exploration management firms. So running large programs for juniors, mid-tiers, majors all over Canada, and eventually that led into some pretty significant international operations, and sort of fell into the company building side by accident as a result of that exploration management and working closely with the executives of those companies.
And what sectors sort of do you yourself sort of specialize in?
I like to dabble in the mining and oil and gas sector, but most of my experience is in mining and exploration.
When was the first time you went from kind of working on the operations sort of drilling side to finding yourself sort of on the capital market side of things within mining?
Yeah, it was about sometime in 2014. Really, got involved in a company called Equitas Resources that we were we were doing a nickel exploration out in Labrador, and that was the first really go at the I guess financial side of building junior explorers, and that was a heck of a run, let me tell you. Had a great time. Unfortunately, we didn't find anything, but we sort of built that into financing a couple of dozen juniors, a couple of takeouts over the years, and now heavily focused on TMAS itself.
Now, you're also the founder and CEO of a merchant bank, a group called the Cronin Capital Group. That's
Mhm,
sort of how I originally came in contact with you.
mhm.
Can you give us a bit of an overview on what that group sort of does and how you operate?
Absolutely. So there's three partners in the group, and we are principal investors, seeding new companies, generally alongside management teams. We get involved early and kind of do a bit of a process, early capital to do significant de-risk and then move it forward. Eventually, generally, the companies go public. Although we have had a number that stay private and get funded with private equity, which we really like. It's a bit of a different market for sure. On top of our principal investment activities and advising juniors, both in the energy sectors and in the mining sector, we do a lot of project generation. So we come up with new ideas. We will go out and stake those ideas or acquire even more advanced assets at times, and typically bring a partner in or sell it to a management team that wants I guess a sort of pre-built project for them already.
Excellent. They want to buy themselves a job.
Well said.
There you go. Looks like you bought yourself one here. Maybe you could give us a bit of an overview on why we're talking today. TMAS Resources. Could you give an overview on the company?
Absolutely, yeah. So, just a little bit of background will help on this. I originally took the company public in either 2019 or 2020. We brought a management team and a board in, and that was well suited to the project. That management team ended up moving on at a couple of years back. Me and my partners stepped back into the company and executed a drill program to at the request of the resource estimators in order to substantiate all the old drilling that was done on our project, and executed a MET program with the ORF extraction technology. So I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit later on. So I'll leave that. But and finally, here we restructured the company last year and released a PEA. At the final publication was at the end of March with some pretty juicy economics around it. 6.6 billion NPV8 post tax, 60% plus IRR on the project. A 14-year mine life, and just what I will note on that 14-year mine life is that's only about 60% of the mineralization. If we did a fifth wall pushback, there's another 40% or so of the material left in the ground, which will be available obviously for future miners, hopefully. And finally, we picked up the additional ground to our west in an option deal with a project generator out of Quebec here, which has us consolidating the camp now. And we've got two more mineralized lenses along with the Blache lens that we have, which historic resource of about 25 million tons of additional material there that isn't included in ours, which is 208 million tons of 16.7% titanium dioxide equivalent. So, and I should note, actually, a sizable build cost though at 1.2 billion, but that's well padded and includes contingency in there. So we'll see how we get there.
I was reading through it. There's some pretty eye-popping numbers, and it doesn't really resonate with your market cap. Why is that? Are they almost too unbelievable? What are your thoughts on that?
So that's a great question, and one that we've been struggling with a little bit. But a pretty simple answer to it is we just haven't talked to the market at all in nearly 2 years. We did disclosure news releases, and that was simply it. There was no marketing, there was no management or board out on the road talking to investors. We had promised this PEA right after we took the company public back in 2000. Never happened, obviously. So we felt that we had to get this document out before there was really a next logical step. So here we are. We are starting to talk to the market again here quite aggressively. Myself and our CEO Tim Fernbeck out here in Quebec right now, attending conferences, getting one-on-one exposure with retail investors and some institutions. And I think, over the last little while here, we've seen a nice appreciation in the share price going from, the 10-cent range. We touched a high of 40 cents the other day, which is, I think, reflective in the amount of marketing that we are doing. And hopefully, as we continue to talk to the market and re-engage with our considerable shareholder base, we will see an appreciation of that market cap and hopefully bring it a little bit more in line,
Yeah, well, you've got some good people out there. I've heard, besides yourself, I've heard the company mentioned probably half a dozen times from some pretty astute investors, including Arlen Hansen, who sort of bugged us to make this official and get going. So he's got a good finger on the pulse on what's going on. So maybe you could just explain a little bit about you've got your Blache project. Whereabouts is that located in Quebec?
For sure. So that's about 120 kilometers north of Baie-Comeau, and it's flanked by two logging roads, major logging roads. There's a winter road into the project. We will need to do a little bit of road construction in order to move the project forward on an advanced basis here. We've got a railhead off to our east, and we've got high tension power lines off to the east as well, just off of our border. So it's a pretty favorable location. There's great infrastructure down in Baie-Comeau and Saguenay, and it's we got the benefit of being able to take advantage of that now.
And you mentioned you touched on briefly. You got titanium and titanium dioxide, and maybe you can explain a little bit about what other sort of minerals are part of the project. And so, what is Blache? It's a polymetallic, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Blache there is a polymetallic project. Its primary mineral is titanium dioxide. We do have iron oxide in the project, as well as a little bit of vanadium. But the TiO2, or the titanium dioxide, is what carries the project at the end of the day. And like I said early on, about 16.5% titanium dioxide equivalent in the project. So it's it's primarily used in paint pigment, is the biggest use for it, as well as some plastics, whitening paper. And, in paint, it's why the room, well, not your room there, you've got a nice cement wall behind you. But typically when you've got paint on the walls, it's what makes the paint bright at the end of the day on your car, in your house, et cetera, et cetera.
Awesome. And so is that different than titanium metal, or is it just a different form of it?
It is. So it's what titanium dioxide can be further refined into titanium metal. So titanium sponge. And, that's, it's what we use in the defense sector. It's what Bombardier uses for its airplanes. It's what Airbus uses. It's the, Raytheon and the other major defense contractors globally. And, one thing I will note here is, the Canadian government's recently given Bombardier a bit of a hall pass to go and buy titanium metal from Russia, which shows how scarce actual titanium is in the Western world, and as far as processing and getting to that end metal. So it's a matter of national security now, getting more titanium production onshore here in Canada, U.S., Australia, other areas in Europe. And the U.S. and the Canadian government seem to be very, very aggressively pushing that agenda now, which is really nice to see.
So is it sort of like a form of like an industrial sort of metal, and what are what's the future sort of demand outlook sort of look for it? I know you're indicating it sounds like it might be a bit critical, but what's the forecasted sort of future demand growth kind of look like?
Absolutely, yeah. So it is an industrial metal for sure, used in a lot of the, like, you got guys like DuPont and Deluxe and Behr and the big paint companies primarily that use it, as well as foodstuffs and whatnot. But the future outlook, it's the interesting thing. It's not like your golds and your silvers and your uraniums, which kind of go up and down and fluctuate significantly. It's a pretty steady eddy growth of between 5% and 6% a year. It's about a $19 billion a year business right now between Canada, US, and Europe. and that's forecasted to grow to about 32 billion over the next 10 years. And it's becoming more and more used in various pigments, as well as it's got anti-rusting agents, so it keeps your metal in good shape at the end of the day.
Awesome. And your pitch deck makes mention, and you sort of briefly touched on it, that we were going to talk about it, an innovative processing technique. Would you be able to kind of give us a bit of a layman's sort of explanation of what that is?
Absolutely. It's basically a hydrochloric acid solution technique. So it's hydromet. Very, very cost efficient on the electricity side. It's, instead of roasting your material to 1,000 degrees and using a lot of electricity and coal to get there, this works at about ambient temperatures, about 30 degrees on this. You introduce a couple of reagents, you drop your you grind it and then drop your iron out first, and then secondarily you drop your titanium out. And the nice thing is, with those that hydrochloric acid and the various reagents, we have about 95+% recyclability on them. So very, very simple process. You've seen it in industrial operations in not the titanium industry. We're in the titanium industry, in the stainless steel industry, and so
Sure.
we can point at that and say, hey, okay, it's you're bathing this material in it all day long. We can operate it efficiently and not have it eat our pumps and our tubs and whatnot as we're doing this. So there is one operation in China that uses this, and there is another operation, and I just can't remember off the top of my head where it's located, but it just came on stream in Europe. Very similar. There's kind of half a dozen of a very similar hydrochloric acid leach technique that's used. We bought a 50% stake in this one from a group that developed it over the last 30 years out of Mississauga, a group of hydrometallurgical engineers. And it was, we bought into it so that we didn't have to go and use or pay a significant amount or a royalty to use somebody else's technique. And quite frankly, a big roasting facility probably isn't going to be built in Canada again here in the near future. It's just kind of,
carbon. It's fairly carbon intensive, and we're obviously looking for low carbon sort of mining.
Yep.
So is there any sort of like carbon sequestration type opportunities eventually if the project were to go into production? I know some of the nickel and some of the other sort of base metal miners are starting to look at sort of carbon sequestration sort of techniques for tailings and things to get to carbon neutral sort of mining. Have you guys ventured down that path and looked at that opportunity?
We haven't necessarily yet. As part of our feasibility study that we're going to be heading into later on, pre-feasibility study we're going to be heading into later on this year. That'll be one of the scoping or kind of, trade-off studies, desktop studies that we do going into that, just so that we can guide that document a little bit more efficiently. And it is top of mind though, and I think a lot of that is covered with our metallurgical process here, and we get a lot of, I think, benefit from that.
What sort of catalyst should investors look for over the next 6 months?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a busy 6 months here. We anticipate executing a drill program, probably 10,000 plus meters later on this fall, and to move our resource from inferred into measured and indicated, as well as bring the two new lenses from our recent acquisition up to, again, measured and indicated and current resource, not a historic resource. That'll be a lot of it, as well as some trade-off studies on our metallurgy. So right now, our semi-massive oxide we only have about 50% recovery on it. We want to really drill down on that and see if we can't get that, north of 75%, more in line with what our massive oxide is. And the kickoff of baseline environmental and a pre-feasibility study, and all the little fun bells and whistles that go along with that, kind of leading into the end of the year, and probably a 24-month-ish process for that feasibility. Finally, we do have a secondary project, which is a drill program away from a PEA. We'll see how the summer goes. Hopefully not too many forest fires. We may execute a short drill program on that to do a PEA on it as well.
Wow, sounds busy indeed, and lots of those high quality catalysts that are moving the advancement of projects and getting some further economics in the ground. So that's great. Why don't we switch gears here? We'll talk sort of financial kind of cap structure. Maybe you
Cool.
can give us a little bit more of a breakdown on the cap table, how many shares are out, how many options, warrants, etc., to get us to a fully diluted number.
For sure, yeah. So we've got the benefit of a nice clean cap structure. We rolled back 9-1 last June 23, which really tightened it up. We've got about 22.7 million shares issued and outstanding right now. We've got about 9.4 million warrants between 15 cents and 40-cent strike price, and about 1.3 to 1.4 million options out there for a fully diluted of about 33.5 million shares. So we're pleased with our share structure, and the nice thing is it's a very, very widely held company. We've got over 3,000 shareholders in there, so it's
Wow.
yeah, it's it's good. And myself personally, I'm a 15% approximately shareholder of the company.
Great. And I was reading recently, if I'm not mistaken, you guys closed on an oversubscribed placement. It looks like I missed out on that one. I don't know where I was, but you raised, you were looking for, I guess, about 1.5 million, close to 1.7 million. And about 40% of the placement was taken down by insiders.
Hmm.
So that was certainly notable and definitely piqued my interest. We don't see that very often, real money going into a company. Am I correct on that?
You're spot on that, and I think you said it right off the bat when we started talking here. Don't need to buy myself a job. I've kind of got one of those already. We like to have me and the other directors. We like to be big shareholders in things we're working on, so that the economic benefit is there, and the incentive is aligned with other shareholders as well. So between myself, Tim Fernbach, the president, and the one of the other directors, David Robinson, who's my partner in Cronin Capital, we were about 40% of the overall placement, and we'll continue to be significant pieces of the placements moving forward, at least maintaining position, if not increasing. And finally, on top of that, I'm an active buyer in the market when appropriate.
And so your insider ownership, you mentioned a little earlier, is about 40, 45%, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and that's including sort of your, I guess friends and family. I guess 25% if it was like true insider, then another 20% on sort of family and associates and people that with one phone call you can get to. Any
Mhm.
other sort of strategic investors that you can mention? Any institutional holders?
We do have a couple of reasonably sized institutional holders that participated in our seed financing, as well as our financing this last 20 center that we did out of Vancouver and Toronto primarily. And over the next while here, we're going to be actively working on bringing in a strategic that can help move this project forward. Will be we hope a cornerstone in the next series of placements that we do in order to get through pre-feasibility. And we're really focused on the institutions in Quebec right now. They do take a major interest in projects in their province. So very good conversations ongoing there, and we hope to be able to really talk about a few of those in the near future.
What's a typical day look like for you?
Well, I'm an early riser, so kind of 5:30, 6 a.m. Start phone calls into Europe and some of our shareholders there. With market open, we're actively on the phones, and from there, it's a kind of just primarily that various meetings on and off, and then kind of the afternoon. I'm an avid mountain biker, so after the market closes, get on that mountain bike and keep my heart in good shape. So, but the morning, I guess we're West Coast based, obviously, so the morning is the most active time for both you and I imagine, and
Yeah.
it's it really is communicating with shareholders is the biggest stuff during the day, and finding new shareholders for the company.
So it looks like you got some fancy molding and stuff behind you. You might be calling from a hotel room, conference room or something. If you're at Quebec based conference. How's that for you?
It's good. It's like we were talking about earlier on. It's a completely different set of investors out here. A lot of retail and high net worth from the townships have come in. It's a great conference. First time at it actually, and I think it was well worth our time. And it we had a chance to meet with the Quebec government, the natural resource side of it over there, as well as their investment arms, and it's nice to be in Quebec. It's a beautiful city, I have to say.
Any other sort of marketing or IR initiatives that we might be able to know about, or we should know about? Any conferences other conferences you'd attend over the summer?
Yeah, so we're actually going to be at the Stampede in Calgary for probably a week there. We've got a couple of events that we're participating in. We're walking around the city. We'll be in Saskatoon on and off as well, just talking to some of our shareholders there. And as far as marketing goes, it kind of taking it old school here, where it's myself and the CEO on the road, doing one-on-ones, doing group meetings, and with obviously with Arlen and Kin Communications there, where you've got people on the phones doing outreach, and that's the meat and the potatoes of it right now. It's we're not pushing any big programs. It's it's really about getting in retail shareholders right now for us.
Excellent. Well, good to hear. I'll be at Stampede as well, so hopefully
Great.
we'll have a chance to kind of connect. Any other projects that you're sort of working on? Anything else at a Cronin that you're able to talk about or excited to talk about, or is it all high secret, top secret stuff?
You know what? I'm a pretty much an open book. We're pretty active in the uranium sector right now out in Labrador. We've been staking up a lot of ground out there. We're bringing in some pretty interesting partners, and
the CMB.
The CMB, man, you know about it. It's fantastic. I love it out there. It's the third basin in Canada that's just been forgotten about. And, nicely now the First Nation issues are all settled out. It's the Innu are partners out there, and it's fantastic. It's a great place to work. And, it's funny. I drilled out there years ago on the Michelin and Jacques Lake projects that Aurora had, now owned by Paladin. And, we see it as a great opportunity.
Excellent. Yeah, that brings back some old times for me. 2006, 2007. There was a handful of us, and exciting times. Good to hear about that stuff. So, what do you think about the metals and mining sector right now? I sort of personally think we've been kind of in a stealthy bull. It's hard to find things that haven't tripled, quadrupled, if they're run well and whatnot. But what are your thoughts? You're an astute investor.
I have to agree with you. I think that right now we're in a bit of a, like you say, a stealthy bull market. I think we really started to get into it right after PDAC, maybe mid-April, kind of May. I think we're going to be in for I think it's going to continue to be stealthy for the next little while. But at some point, you know what? Those the juniors out there are going to have to catch up with the metals that they're exploring for. The metals have been, let's face it, man, on a tear. It's been really nice to see. But it still really is. It's project, asset. It's not moose pasture that's getting financed right now. It's mostly it's projects that have good management teams around them, and that have something in the ground or a good exploration thesis, not just kind of going on a prayer and a hope kind of idea.
Excellent. What makes Temas Resources a compelling choice for investors right now, today?
Right now, today, I think that we're completely undervalued, as we talked about earlier on. This is the start of our relaunch of the company. We've got a long way to go to close the gap between asset value and our current market cap. So there's a tight share structure there. There's a great asset in the ground. You've got an experienced management team, and we'll be growing that management team. So right now, it's an 8 million market cap with a 6.6 billion post-tax asset, and I think that's the opportunity.
And do you own that asset outright?
100% own, no option payments, no nothing on it. It's beautiful.
Well, that's great. Any final thoughts or key messages you'd like to leave us with?
No, I think that value dichotomy right now is the biggest message, and yeah, stay tuned, guys. I think we're gonna have we're gonna have an active couple of years here on the company, and we're excited for to move this forward.
Well, Kyler, appreciate your time. Thanks for taking a little bit of time out in your busy afternoon, early evening there. Nice to finally get you on the program. We look forward to staying up on the progress of TMAS, and have a wonderful rest of the week.
Thank you very much, Kier. Really appreciate it, and yeah, always a pleasure. It's great to reconnect.